Hey there, everybody. It's Helen.
Oh, and it's Toby. I don't think we have anybody here yet, so we should probably wait a couple of minutes. I think everyone's going to be they're going to really start laughing when they hear the fact that you're trying to sound like me, which is a smoker, which I'm not a smoker, but I'll have people say to me, gosh, do you smoke cigarettes? You're so raspy. And I'll be like, no, I don't. I sound like an 80-year-old smoker. And you're trying to sound like me.
I have these pillows in my throat that I've tried to talk through. That's what it feels like to me.
This is why it's so good, because you're sick. This is Helen being sick, and she's really far away from me, so that I don't have to worry about her getting me sick.
So that's a good thing. Yes, you want to be far away from me right now.
You germ woman.
Hi, Roxana. We've got some mamas on already.
Oh, we've got some mamas on. Well, let's get started and have some fun and have some education and sharing and having some maybe even touching our boobs today. That's what I think.
That's what we do around here. Yes.
So hey everybody, it's Toby.
And it's Helen, and we're so excited to welcome you to our 14th Boob Tube. Today we're talking about what is a really common thing to do, but often a controversial topic to bring up. And so we're going to be talking about supplementing with formula.
Oh, and I know this is a really big controversial conversation, and I'm glad that we're having it on the Boob Tube because, you know, I think you and I are all about let's live in reality, let's be real mamas, let's share some real stories. We all make mistakes. We all, you know, have successes and fails, and I think I'm glad that we're talking about something that I really don't think a lot of people talk about.
Mm-hmm. I don't think so either. I think there's a lot of terms sort of derogatory for people that are very pro breastfeeding at sort of the detriment to the people around them. And we certainly don't want to be that way. Sometimes they're called breastfeeding Nazis, sometimes breastfeeding Taliban. Not to make light of any of that, because we know that the research shows that breast milk is really the best food for a human baby. But we need to be in reality too. Toby and I have both supplemented with formula at one time or another because we felt we had to. That was the best option for us. And, you know, a lot of times that's with our first baby, we'll supplement. And then with the second one,
Yeah, a lot of it has to actually do with, you know, not knowing, am I supposed to or not? Not really, you know, because it really is. It's all kind of a mystery down here. You know, it's not like I have, and I still say we need to come up with some type of see-through breast where I can see exactly how much milk is in there and exactly how much is going in and out. But we don't have that. So until we come to some new future age where we can create temporarily, because I don't think all the time we would want to see through boob, but a temporary moment where, you know, we have the ability to see. I think a lot of times this happens because we are new mamas and we don't really think we have enough breast milk supply. And we've learned in a lot of our experiences, as well as research and education, that really that's kind of probably one of the biggest mistakes that happens.
Yeah, that's right. We know that the most common reason that moms start to supplement and stop breastfeeding altogether is because of perceived low milk supply, which is really not even in reality your milk supply is low. It's that you think your milk supply is low. And sometimes it's this feedback that we're getting from the people around us, like maybe your husband or your mother-in-law or your peer group they're not breastfeeding or they haven't breastfed. And so when you breastfeed, sometimes you can get a negative reaction and people can say, I don't think your baby's getting enough. Your baby looks very thin. And then that kind of gets into your subconscious, you know, maybe I'm not making enough. So it's not always actually your milk supply is low. Sometimes you just kind of doubt yourself.
So let's talk about one of our first questions, that I think is a great, you know, question that we can ask all of our, obviously ask each other, and we'll ask all of our moms that are on the show, is that, you know, why do moms start supplementing with formula? Mm-hmm. And I think that you and I talked about, and research definitely really shows that a lot of it, the biggest reason is that low milk supply. Or like, I think as a great thing that you said is that it's the perception of low milk supply. And, and that's one thing that I think is a huge one. I know as moms, we've talked about it on our other shows, but I think it's something great to bring back up again, is that the way you can tell if your baby is getting enough breast milk is, are they sated and relaxed after they've breastfed? Are they producing enough wet diapers? 4 to 6 is the range. Don't obsess about numbers. It doesn't have to be exact, but around there. Is there a poopy diaper once a day? And are they arousable, easily arousable? And are they a happy baby and not crying constantly because they're not getting enough milk? If you have the ability to see all that, it's not always necessarily a birth weight. And I think we should talk about that, because I think a birth weight kind of becomes something that maybe moms have a pitfall or a speed bump that they run into.
Yeah, that's really true. There's a lot of things that can affect birth weight. If you've received IV fluids during your labor, that can artificially increase your baby's birth weight. And then over the first few days of their life, they're going to pee out all that extra fluid. And then, of course, their weight is going to go down because they're urinating out that extra fluid. And so that's kind of a false weight loss. And
that happens within a few days of, like you come home from the hospital and obviously your pediatrician knows the weight that your baby came home from the hospital with. And then you go in a couple days later to see him and they're wanting to see what's the baby's weight. That's like the first thing. What's the baby's weight? And that seems to be the first few weeks, maybe month. What's the baby's weight? What's the baby's weight? And I think that's a great thing that you pointed out for moms, that if you have to get a C-section or if you have to get IV fluids, that is going to actually change the outcome of the go home weight, to where the next few days that weight might drop, but not as much as it seems. So we need to be on top of that. I think mamas need to be on top, knowing that ahead of time.
I think that's right. And if you feel like your milk is coming in, you're seeing that your baby is getting the sort of, they're swallowing, you're hearing that clicking sound that oftentimes means that milk is being swallowed, but you're still getting the message that your baby's losing weight, might be a good idea to see a lactation consultant. And what they'll do is go ahead and weigh your baby before you feed, and then you'll breastfeed your baby until they're done. Then they'll weigh your baby again, and they'll find out how many ounces of milk actually transferred during that feeding. And that's a really,
Why don't pediatricians do that? They never do that. Why don't they do that? I think that's a great thing.
It's true. Yeah, it is true. Unfortunately, we have, depending on where you live and who your pediatrician is, we have some pediatricians that are really kind of up in the latest recommendations, and some that are kind of stuck in 40 years ago when they graduated from med school. So choose your pediatrician carefully.
I think that's really a great thing to talk about, because I do believe that there are breastfeeding friendly pediatricians, and there are a lot that are not. And if your goal is to be a breastfeeding mom, you really want to make sure you do some of that research ahead of time to know, is your pediatrician going to be a breastfeeding, more educated, more pro breastfeeding pediatrician? Because another thing that a lot of moms may or may not know about is, and I would love to hear some comments from you moms that are on the show of, the reason why maybe you had to supplement. And there's no judgment here, because like Helen said, we both have had to supplement with some formula in our breastfeeding journeys with our different children. So, there's definitely not a judge. We're here to share and to help other moms, because that's definitely something I think that's very important. But there's actually more than one birth chart. Yeah. There's the formula fed baby birth chart, which is from a long time ago, growth chart from a long time ago, where they collected all this information, and now they're using that all the time. And that those babies are heavier, they're a lot heavier at certain times than a breastfed baby is. And if your baby's being measured with that, they're always going to come up too low in their birth weight when they're really not.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that sometimes the feedback that we get from the pediatrician is really useful, and other times it's kind of outdated information. So I think if you're choosing a pediatrician for the first time, try to find one that has a lactation consultant maybe in their practice with them, someone that they readily refer their patients to for breastfeeding help. I think that's going to give you a good idea that they're very pro breastfeeding and are going to be aware of some of the issues that you may have and be able to support you through those.
Definitely. And then I think another times that moms run into some issues where, again, they think they're not producing enough breast milk, when it's really not that situation. It's that the baby has their tongue tied, or they have a partial tongue tie, and they're not able to actually suck properly.
Yeah, that's true. And what we have then is not enough milk is transferred from the breast to the baby. So your baby might be hungry and your breast might be really full, but your baby's not able to get it out. So that's really frustrating. This can also happen, Tobi, and you and I have both experienced the pain of a shallow latch. I know that.
It's Wipe mouth. Well, and we do. Oh my gosh, I was really, I have to be honest, moms, you know, and please let me know that I'm not alone when I did this, but I was kind of slightly a lazy breastfeeding, latching mom, you know, and I'm like, you know, especially it's late at night and I'm tired and I'm like just, you know, whipping her on there and she's kind of grabbing right quick, and there really wasn't that wide mouth or that nice open mouth latch. Mm-hmm. And I definitely, after several days or even a week, started going, oh my gosh, and that creates more pain. And it's kind of like this vicious cycle when I, you know, and eventually, and I went to go see a lactation consultant, and she was, the first thing out of her mouth was, let me see your latch. And I kind of, you know, slung her on really quick. And she goes, oh, no, hold on. You need to have a proper latch. And my husband would make fun of me because I'd be like, big mouth, white mouth, Ashlyn. No, okay, wait a minute, detached. Wide, and he says I would do it. I would do it with her, and he's like, you know, she can't see you doing that, right? I'm like, whatever. A self-reminder.
Things we do. It's we don't need to be reminded of them later. We're in the moment. It makes sense.
It made tons of sense. It was like, but you know, the latch is really important, and how they're sucking and swallowing is also very important, which comes with the latch, or possibly could come with something as simple as a tongue tie. And that's something that either a lactation consultant is going to be able to find right away. So you're producing all this milk, but it's not getting to the baby. And it could be something where you, as the mom, think, I'm not producing enough milk, so now I'm going to have to start supplementing, which turns out to be like a vicious cycle. Also, where we end up.
Right. And the sad thing is it's not the case, because you have all this milk, but it's just not getting to the baby. And what we're going to see then is eventually you will have a low milk supply, because we know the longer the breast stays full, the less milk your body gets the signal to produce. So you want to try to empty that breast. And here's where the breast touching starts, because we're going to talk about breast touching.
All right. I want everybody who's on the show to do some breast touching with us, so we're not alone.
Right. And so if your baby has a shallow latch, if your baby has tongue tie, if you have kind of a lazy breastfeeder, baby that falls asleep at the breast. So there's some things that are kind of behavior things, like the sleepy baby, and other things that are more part of their anatomy, which would be the tongue tie and the shallow latch as well. So if you want to do breast compression, you just
here we go.
Pretend I have a baby on the breast, and then all I'm going to do is make kind of a C with my hand, and I'm going to move the milk down and out of my breast. Okay.
And it's almost like a massaging kind of thing.
Exactly. Right? And this helps remove milk from the breast without the baby having to give the full suck and that compression with their own mouth. So this is going to help keep your milk supply strong, empty that breast, even if you're having trouble transferring because of a problem that baby's having.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about, you know, again, you know, this is something that we've talked about in past shows. So definitely, moms, we would love for you to share if you feel like we're talking about some things that are important to you and would be important to some other moms that you know. Please share our live so that more moms can find us, because, you know, I think a lot of moms would want to be here, you know, be on our show and hang out and learn and have fun and, I don't know, touch boobs together, all of us together.
And Roxana, we love your comments. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate hearing how you had to start supplementing because your baby was losing weight and that your baby's not a fan of the bottle. A lot of babies aren't. They say, why would I want this plastic thing in my mouth? I want the real thing. So,
well, and that's a good point. I love that she brought that up because, sometimes us moms, we have an idea of the type of bottle and the type of nipple that we want to get. We've done all this education and all this research, and we feel like this bottle is the one that we should get, when that might not be the bottle or the nipple that our baby wants to use. So I actually ran into something like that, and I was at Babies R Us, and I was standing there, overwhelmed, looking at this huge wall of all these nipple choices and all these bottle choices. And when one of the salespeople came over to talk to me, and I was explaining to her my situation, she goes, well, there's a lot of different nipples, and there's a reason for that. They're all different shapes and sizes and textures. And she goes, as women, we all have different nipples. And that was something that I didn't think about, so something I want to share here, that we all have different shapes and sizes of nipples, and our babies are used to that, and now we're introducing a bottle. We might want to, and I had to go through 5 for my first daughter, Ashley. Now, Izzy, she was like, whatever you put in my mouth is fine. She was a little piggy. There was milk coming out of it. She was happy. But Ashley was a picky eater, and she definitely had a nipple preference. So we struggled with the bottle, and that definitely can make a hard time. And I know there's research out there about cup feeding for moms that are having trouble with possibly bottles. And I think that's a great thing that we maybe could link onto our show for moms to find out about cup feeding as well. But kind of remember that, moms, that there's more than one bottle and there's more than one nipple. So, don't stick to only one because you thought that was the one you should get.
Yeah, that's a great point. Every baby has different preferences, just like you and I have different preferences. So
definitely. And I'd love for you guys to definitely share our show with other moms. That would be great. And if you guys are coming to our show from a website that is a mom-friendly, breastfeeding, mom-supporting, mom craziness, keeping us all linked together, please let us know what website shared us on Facebook so that, we can give a shout out to them, because we love all the support, and that's what we're all about, is supporting moms.
That's true.
I think another thing I wanted to talk about is that when we go back to work, definitely low milk supply can come in, can either be perceived, like you said, or can actually happen when we go back to work.
Yeah.
Our routine. We are not breastfeeding maybe as much. If we're pumping, that definitely is a different experience. I definitely was a mom who had to pump a lot, and it is, not a loving relationship. I don't think I looked at my pump and thought, oh, so wonderful.
I can't wait to connect to you.
I'm so connected to your hard, rigid plastic self and your whoosh-ah, 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 whoosh-ah noises. I mean, I know they're getting better now, but I mean, and I did look at a picture of my baby. I don't know if that ever worked for me. If it worked for moms, please let me know how you made the pumping experience more emotional, because I definitely struggle with that. I don't think I ever had an emotional connection when I would do my pumping. So it was always, okay, here we go, we're going to pump. It was like a chore. It was like dragging that, I don't know, like my pump was my ball and chain that I drug in wherever I had to pump. So that when we go back to work, we're doing this pumping thing. We're not pumping as much. We might be pumping less times than we would have been nursing if we were home. And I definitely think that, like you've said in the past, is that we're not producing as much milk because we aren't actually breastfeeding or pumping as much.
Yeah, when you're home, you're usually breastfeeding your baby quite a few more times than when you're at work and pumping. And the data really shows this, that a lot of moms stop breastfeeding at 3 months, and that corresponds when a lot of moms go back to work. So that really backs it up.
Yeah, and I think that's when supplementing happened to me. I started, with my first baby, I started realizing I wasn't producing as much milk. But I also know that when we do our shows and we talk to moms, we find out that moms are actually producing enough milk. They just don't realize, they get obsessed with a number that they see now. and they think they're not producing enough milk, but really they probably are. But I think we should talk about really quick, we should go back to something where you mentioned, like, how does your breast make breast milk? There's the receptors that are in there. Let's talk about that really quick, because I think that would really help moms.
So exciting. I love it. So we have cells that actually take nutrients from our blood and then bring them into our mammary glands and our cells that are like little storage areas, and they make those nutrients from our blood. They create milk from them. So it's really important that moms understand that this is where your milk comes from. It doesn't mean you have to have a special diet or anything like that, but the walls of those cells that are making our milk, when they get stretched out, they shut down milk production. So we want to be sure that the walls of those cells are always pretty relaxed and empty. And so milk production kicks into high gear all the time.
So what you're saying is that as the breast is filling up and remains more full, the body says, hey, stop, I
don't have to make this. Yeah.
And as we're emptying the breast more often and more completely, I think that's a big point, more completely and more often, the body, the receptors are back to being relaxed, and the body's like, oh, wait a minute, green light, produce.
Make more. That's right. Because making breast milk is like metabolically really expensive, because there's nutrients coming from your blood, there's, fats and all these different things, carbohydrates that are going into that breast milk. So your body's not going to make breast milk that it feels like it's not needed, because we're going to hold on to all that nutrition.
We are a organism that is very, it's got a certain way that it does things, and it doesn't waste time.
No waste.
So that's what happens when we go back to work and we start pumping. We aren't emptying the breasts enough. So I think when we, did our little massaging, that's something important for you guys to remember, to definitely do some massaging while you're pumping. And if you can try to pump a little more, that would be something that would really be good too, if you're starting to notice a decline in breast milk. I think a lot of moms ask if they start supplementing, can they mix it with their breast milk? I know I did. I don't know if the research says that's totally okay to do that. I kind of mixed it together, because who has time to serve two different bottles? But I do know that the more supplementing I did, this was the big black hole that I ran into with my first daughter. The more I started off just a little bit of supplementing, an ounce and a half, maybe two. And that didn't seem like a big deal to me. I'm like, oh, it's okay. And then as weeks went on, that went to a couple more ounces. And then as a couple months went by, pretty much half the bottle was formula. And then by the time I was at 10 months, my goal originally was to do 12. I was almost barely producing any breast milk, because I didn't realize that I was pumping less, and I was producing less because I was pumping less. So that's the big pitfall, I think, what happens when we do some supplementing.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that with my first. My first is 12 now, and I know your first is 13, right? So 13. We kind of had this experience at the same time. But I got formula cans from the hospital that I worked at. So that's where I had my baby, was the hospital where I worked. And so they hooked me up with this giant case of formula. Oh, wow, thank you. That's so great. So I brought it home, and I didn't realize that whenever I supplemented with formula, that would have result in a decrease in my supply. So mamas, if you do have to supplement with formula, remember to replace that feeding with a pumping. So if someone has to feed formula to your baby for whatever reason, remember to replace that feeding with the pumping. And that's really going to help mitigate that impact on your milk supply.
Yeah, and there's definitely some things out there that actually, if you're having a breast milk supply problem, I think first and foremost, and I know you would agree, that more breastfeeding or more pumping is going to help increase that. And a lot of moms will ask me, well, how long does it take? And it's usually about a week to 2 weeks to get that increased supply. Because again, it's a supply and demand, and it takes about a week to 2. I think that's when our babies are cluster feeding. They cluster feed for about a week or 2. And that's part of produce more. I want more. So it tells the body, tells the breast, hey, I need more. And that will actually start to happen. So a little patience, I think, is needed for moms. But there are actual products out there and some supplements out there that do increase or help to increase some breast milk supply. And
that's right. I have one of them here. And they're actually,
everyone knows that when we do our talk show, we love to give away products to moms that are commenting. And one of them is what you got in your hand, Helen. What is that?
So this is Nursing Blend, and this is a complete postnatal nutritional support for moms, but it also has fenugreek. And fenugreek is an herb that has been used for thousands of years to increase milk supply. So this is kind of the standard in herbal breastfeeding and breast milk increasing your breast milk supply is fenugreek. So we're giving away some of this Nursing Blend. And then we have a couple other products too that we're giving away.
Products. And anyone, we're going to be picking our winners from the comments below. So definitely get some comments out there for us, moms, because we love being able to interact with you guys. And we'll be actually responding to all the comments after the show. But another thing that I love to share is, of course, the infamous Milk Saver.
You call it infamous.
Infamous. It's so, because you know what I love about this is that this is a way of, and this is a big word, passively collecting your breast milk on the opposite side of nursing. So if moms are worried about their supply, and when you're breastfeeding on one side and you're just, obviously the stimulation happens on both, and we're leaking onto the opposite side, instead of, this supplementing with formula, if you're using the Milk Saver, you put it into your bra and you start collecting some of that leaked out breast milk that's just being thrown away. And this is why you can actually start having an extra supply, and you can be supplementing your breast milk with your breast milk, which I think is awesome.
I love that. And so I have to say that the next product Tobi's going to show are milk trays. These products were both ones that we created during our breastfeeding journey that helped us go back to work and continue to breastfeed and continue to exclusively feed breast milk. So that's why we're excited to share them with all of you mamas out there, because there's a lot of moms going back to work, and please learn from your journey.
That's when we have the big supplementing starts to happen, and then we have that big baby hurdle or baby drop off or baby. You used it. What was that word that you used? I loved it. It was like baby pitfall.
The booby trap.
Booby trap, where you run into that. So obviously we're going to be giving away some Milk Savers to our commenters below. And then the milk tray, if you're going back to work or if you're doing a lot of pumping at home, the milk tray is a way of freezing your breast milk. I'm going to open the tray up so everyone can see it. Freezing your breast milk in single-ounce servings. So it eliminates waste that's very common with nurser bags. And that way, then you're only making each bottle to order. So if you only need 3 ounces, you're only grabbing 3 milk sticks and thawing, and you're actually thawing 3 ounces. So it's a way of, you're not throwing away any breast milk, because we know it's liquid gold and we need all that. So we're going to be giving away some milk trays, some Milk Savers, and some Nursing Blend to all of our commenters on the show. And then another thing I think is really awesome is that we have a lot of products that are with Milkies. They're all breastfeeding friendly, supporting, make total sense, not gadgety. They're definitely products that are going to help moms in their journeys. And we have a lot of products on mymilkies.com, and we have a coupon code that is for today's show and today only on Saturday. It is FB Live 20, and you can get 20% off any of the products that are actually on our mymilkies.com. So we would love for you guys to go there and look at all the wonderful products and see if there's some gifts that you might want to give to some people, and maybe if there's some products that you would love to use yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. If you want to go on there and buy some products for a friend or for a family member that's having a baby, Milky's products are all really earth friendly. They're most of them are created by moms, Toby and I, for other moms, because we've been there. We've kind of walked the walk, and
Stumbled the stumble. We walked the walk. We failed the fail, and we survived the mountain.
Yeah, we have. It's really true, and I think that the reason that life is hard on us sometimes is because it helps us relate then to other people that are having a hard time too, or they're having challenges. If you and I would have had this breastfeeding journey with no challenges, I think this would be a tough thing to do because we'd say, what's so hard about it? It's just so easy. You put the baby on and go. Well, that was not my reality, and I know that wasn't yours.
No. And I know that's not a lot of moms' reality, but it is something that I think the more, and that's what I love about having our Facebook Lives and having our Boob Tube, is that it's a way of connecting with moms and connecting moms with moms, not just us with moms, but connecting moms with moms. And we can talk about, all these things that we like to talk about. This is our 14th episode, and we'd love for you guys to go back and see some of our other episodes. But, we're here to help, support, share, have some fun, and do a little thing.
Well, and we're really excited because there's more and more breastfeeding influencers that are sharing our Boob Tube. I'd like to shout out to Breastfeeding Mama Talk and also to Mom's Choice Awards, who are both sharing our Facebook Live this month, and will continue to do so. And so we're grateful for that. We're grateful for anybody that wants to kind of be positive about breastfeeding and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about it.
I love it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But yeah, so moms, don't, if you're supplementing right now, I think the most thing we want you to understand is that you're not alone. You're not the only one who is doing it. I think a lot of people don't want to tell anybody that they're doing that because they're worried they're going to be judged. Mm-hmm. And, you're not alone. A lot of us have done it. A lot of us haven't done it. And I think that's that. I love that people have not had to do it. But a lot of first-time moms, I think, run into that.
That's right.
It's first-time moms. Those are the big ones. And we've all been first-time moms. So, yeah. And we just want you to know you're not alone. But we want you to know that, that if you are having to supplement, there are ways to try to break free from the supplementing. And we just want to encourage you and educate you and know that you can do it.
Right. And we call it kicking the can. You want to kick the can.
Kicking the can.
This is what you need to do. So try to breastfeed or pump more often. Really just try to empty the breast more frequently. Use hands-on pumping when you do pump. I'll put a link to that video in the comments. But that has been shown to increase your milk supply 50 to 100%, because we know that a pump doesn't empty the breast as well as a baby does. So when you use a pump, you've got to get your hands on your breasts as well to help more completely empty the breasts. And again, kick those cells into high gear to say it's time to make milk.
Yep.
So there's some little tricks that you can do. You can supplement with a fenugreek supplement as well. That's a great thing. But kind of overarching everything is empty your breasts.
Empty your breasts.
Yeah. You can pump after you feed. So you've nursed your baby and maybe your baby's asleep, or, somebody else can hold your baby. Go and pump and give yourself that extra stimulation. Take what's called a nursing honeymoon, where you take a day off, you binge on Netflix, you sit on the couch all day, and you just breastfeed your baby. You don't leave the house. So that's another thing to do to increase your supply. Just frequent. And if you feel like your baby's using you for a pacifier, great, actually, because and more stimulation for your breast.
Yeah, and I think for that's going to be definitely for those moms that are getting into their nursing and are running into a problem. But for our moms that are running into they're beginning their nursing journey, don't obsess so much about birth weight, because we know that there's a lot of information related to that. Get a lactation consultant early on board who has the ability to assess your latch and really just look at your baby and see how they're doing, because a lot of that has more to do than an actual number.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good thing. All right.
Lots of talking and lots of sharing. And we hope to see all of you next month for our next Facebook Live. And all right, see you guys then.
Bye. Have a good Saturday, everybody.
And remember that Facebook Live is only for today. The FB Live 20 is for today. Okay, so jump on there if you need to get a discount.